Today, on this episode of Let's Explore This, we will be in Graham County, North Carolina, traveling southward on this here Highway 129. For this episode, we are going to be turning westward here onto Thunderbird Mountain Road. Before we begin, however, there is something you will first need to see. This here, it is Santeetlah Dam. No, we will not be seeing that in person for this episode. The dam, however, it was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2004. That makes it eligible for its own episode, and beyond the scope of this one. The lake it creates, however, is, well, at least in part, going to be the focus of this episode. Did you know that global news publication Insider listed Lake Santeetlah as the #1 most beautiful lake in the United States? Oh, yes, and it is not simply a lake. What it is a man made lake, a reservoir. And near the northeastern edge of the reservoir lies the town that will be the focus of this episode, Lake Santeetlah. And did you know that this town has its very own website? Much of the information for this episode will be coming from a few entries on that website. Lake Santeetlah, the town, it is located 6 miles north of Robbinsville and within 15 miles of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It is located on a peninsula surrounded by Lake Santeetlah, which is in turn largely surrounded by the Nantahala National Forest. The town, it is home to more than 200 residences, many of them second homes owned by permanent residents of Florida and Georgia. The town was organized in 1989 as Santeetlah. Then, in 1999, it changed its name to Lake Santeetlah. As of the 2010 census, the full-time population is 43. Wow, such a young town, more or less, with residents from where? Florida? I wonder why that is. Why not New Jersey, Kansas, Tennessee? Not sure, but despite the fact that this town was once named Santeetlah without the lake, it should not be confused with any historical towns that may have, many moons ago, bore that name. This here, it is a list of historic Graham County post offices. As you can see, there are at least 3 entries here for Santeetlah, all dating from the early 1900s. For this episode, though, we are only going to be concerned with what came to be the town of Lake Santeetlah. Of course, Santeetlah Lake and the Cheoah district of the Nantahala National Forest, which surrounds it, do provide outstanding recreational opportunities. The lake has a variety of fish, including smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, walleye, crappie, bream, and lake trout. Yes, overall, Lake Santeetlah, it is a fisherman's paradise. The marina here, Santeetlah Marina, it is the only full-service marina on a lake that has 76 miles of shoreline. Wow, talk about a big lake. And there are more than 50 primitive campsites scattered around the lake that include a picnic table and a fire ring. And folks, did you know that there are many opportunities for hiking in this area? Oh, yes, there are over 200 miles of hiking trails in the Cheoah district. In fact, one can even hike about 8 miles from this here Lake Santeetlah to the Appalachian Trail. Furthermore, this recreation area here, the Chioa Point Recreation Area, is apparently closed right now. Or maybe they just don't want you to drive through there and you must walk your feet in order to camp here. Or maybe it's simply closed. Maybe it's a seasonal thing. Not sure. Whatever the case, this campground is approximately a mile from the town of Lake Santeetlah, and this little park here, it has a few developed facilities, mainly for swimming, camping, and picnicking, as well as a boat ramp. However, I do not actually see a boat ramp. I don't know. Maybe it's someplace down there. I don't see it over here in this section either. Not sure. And they appear, at least at this time, to have even the access to the beach closed. I mean, yes, it is just after Halloween. Yeah, seasonally speaking, I doubt many will be going swimming. I mean, yes, the polar bear club types, they might want to take the plunge, but most folk, probably not. Even so, though, it is not cold enough to say no to picnics. I mean, it's in the low 60s. Those are actually great temps for picnics, or so I thought. I don't know. Some people must think otherwise. I guess, though, if you really wanted to, you could park up there and haul your picnic stuff down. It is not far at all of a walk, and there's a bit of space to park maybe a couple of cars. I don't know. I don't have the time for that. I'm just here to show you that in November, I guess, they closed this area off. But all of that is well and great, but how did this town of Lake Santeetlah ever come about? Well, because of its mountainous terrain, Graham County, it was one of the last sections of the eastern United States to be settled by the Europeans. Robbinsville was not incorporated until 1893, and it had only 200 residents in 1915. In the area known as Santeetlah along the Chioa River, it was sparsely settled. Regardless, the river valley, it was flooded after Santeetlah Dam was completed in 1928. In 1939, the United States Forest Service purchased from the Carolina Aluminum Company the land now occupied by the town of Lake Santeetlah. Okay, so what we have here is a pic of a lounge. It is believed to be part of a development once created by Kenneth Keyes called Lake in the Sky. This here is Kenneth Schofield Keyes Sr., whom I believe is likely the Kenneth Keyes referenced on the town's website. Well, he is considered the father of Lake Santeetlah. A native of Detroit who became an extremely successful retail dealer in Miami, he headed over 50 corporations that operated hotels, office buildings, and other realty enterprises in Florida, New York, and Canada. Okay, that's all well and good, but how in the world did he find his way to this remote area? Apparently, in 1947, Keyes exchanged with the Forest Service some land he held for the area that is now the town of Lake Santeetlah. For reasons unknown, he called the property Thunderbird Estates. Okay then, was it first called Lake in the Sky? This article, it is clipped from a 1948 newspaper. Apparently, Keyes, he had hoped to build a large hotel complex in the area of the town now known as Chalet Village. That area, yes, it was graded in preparation for building. Although he hired a Miami architectural firm to draw the plans, Keyes never built it, and in 1958 he sold the undeveloped property to another Florida land developer, who transferred it again in 1961. Here we have a memorial park for a Colonel Ernest Manier, dedicated May 25th of 2013. So, folks, tell me, who is Colonel Ernest Manier? Did he have anything to do with this area here around Chalet Village? I don't know. Let's see if we can find some information on the guy. So, as you can see, there was an Ernest Manier who did live here in this neck of Lake Santeetlah. I am assuming he may have passed away. After all, this is a memorial. Well, as this obituary passage shows, he had an extensive military background. You can read this at your own leisure. Nonetheless, this little park appears as if it is a gathering space of sorts. Yes, there's lots of chairs over here, and benches, and whatnot. They have even got this little gazebo. Now, we're going to take a walk into this little gazebo. And yes, there is a statue over here, but I wonder what the statue is of. It does look like it needs a bit of work. It's kind of decaying in spots, but I don't know. Let's just walk in the little gazebo. So, in the early 1960s, a new corporation, Smoky Mountain Resorts, built a lodge and some cabins, and the first landowners began to build on the north shore of the peninsula. Okay, folks, the time has come to talk about a lodge that once existed in this area. Finding an actual location of it, however, was a bit difficult, though I do have a couple of ideas. But the main one, it seems to be centered around something here called Old Lodge Road. We're going to leave it at that. As I was gathering much of the footage for this video, I was actually stopped by, I guess it was a local cop. Someone in the area must have called the cops thinking I was looking suspicious running around with a camera or something. Therefore, I don't want to spend too much time here in this area, so I am just going to say this road here, it's the one where the lodge is or was located. The only building on this old lodge road is this one over here. There is a picture of the lodge. It kind of looks like it could have been, not sure. This here looks kind of separated into two buildings. The picture of the lodge appears to be longer than that. Still, though, something about it is giving me this impression that maybe it once stood here. I mean, as I said, I am not going to traverse the area again to look for where the lodge is or was. And this road here, I'm not going to go there either. It is a long way. Down there, they are doing some construction. It's kind of hard to drive around, so I will just leave it at that. This is the best you're going to get for what might have been the lodge. I'm assuming it probably was on Old Lodge Road, but I am not exactly certain. Regardless, the lodge, with its two faux totem poles, it became the heartbeat of the Thunderbird Mountain Resort. It held activities that included movies, bingo, square dancing, church services, and a place to gather together when the mail was delivered. Although roads were graded and paved, and a water system installed, Thunderbird Mountain Club Resort, as the development was first called, was always short of capital. In 1971, Smoky Mountain Resorts sold its interest to W. Bennett Collette, a dabbler in buying financially distressed properties. By the way, the postcard image here, don't ask me what year it is from. No year is given, sorry. Anyhow, Colette, he transferred the properties around among his various companies, and by 1973, he had clearly communicated to the residents that he was not interested in operating the water system. The Thunderbird Homeowners Association, later the Thunderbird Property Owners Association, which had been formed in 1969 and incorporated in 1971, it began to investigate the possibility of taking over the water system itself. That was, of course, not without disharmony among the members. In 1979, the Insurance Commissioner of Indiana confiscated the assets of Colette's now defunct Pilgrim Life Insurance Company. And so, the state of Indiana, it briefly owned Thunderbird Mountain before selling it to Executive National Life Insurance in 1981. Relations between Executive National and the Thunderbird property owners were, at best, rocky. The insurance company did not repair the water system or provide other services specified by the restrictive covenants, and so many property owners, they stopped paying their fees. The water system grew so unreliable that some property owners dug their own wells. A lawsuit by the insurance company was dismissed by the court, and the company became more amenable to the formation of, yeah, you guessed it, an incorporated town. So, on April 13th of 1989, Thunderbird Mountain became the town of Lake Santeetlah, and in 1991, Executive National transferred the roads and the water system to the town. Through state grants and assessments on the properties, including those of the insurance company, a new water system was eventually created. And as far as the roads, well, yes, they were repaved. In that same year, a volunteer fire department and a community center was constructed. 10 years later, in 1998, a town hall was dedicated on the 4th of July. However, back in 1979, the state of North Carolina had prohibited any new connections to the antiquated water system. Although property sales and home construction did not completely cease, for example, a builder could drill his own well, the completion of a new water system in 1995 occurred simultaneously with a new round of construction. Homes built in the 1990s and in the first decade of the new century tended to be much grander than the simple cottages of the 1960s. Yes, I am not sure if this here is from the 1960s. I mean, it does look much simpler than, say, something like that. So maybe that's one of those newer homes, and this, maybe it is one of those older homes. Not sure, as I did not check deeds or other details on any of these lots. And the lodge, which had only sporadically operated during the preceding decades, was recycled into the sales office of an upscale lakefront development called Santeetlah Lakeside, and million-dollar property transfers occurred for the first time. In 2007, the town announced that tax revenues from escalating property values were accumulating so quickly that it had decided to slightly reduce the millage rates. Recycled into the sales office for Santeetlah Lakeside. Okay, that must be a picture of it right there. I don't know if that's the sales office. That kind of looks like it could have once acted as a lodge. Yes, this is kind of saying that there are 3 floors and 3 floor plans and condos available. That could even be a condo and not so much of a sales office. Not sure. However, Santeetlah Lakeside? Bear with me, 'cause I've got to show you a sign. So, this is Santeetlah Lakeside, and it is located right here along Old Lodge Road down this way. It is possible that the lodge, the building that used to be the so called Thunderbird Mountain Lodge, may not stand anymore. There is a large open area over there, and there is another large area over here. Not sure if anything once stood there, and then you have the 2 buildings situated right over here. Neither one of them really look like that. Maybe, just maybe, they might if they were kind of separated. I don't know. Possibly they would look a bit like that. They kind of don't, though. But I actually went down the road that goes down there called Lakeside Trail, and I didn't see anything that big along that road. There is, let's see if we can see it. That thing on the lake, that could have been a lodge. That doesn't exactly look like what's in the picture, though. I mean, I don't see anything else down there that looks like that. So maybe that is something in the process of being built, something that hasn't been built yet. Maybe they're planning on building that, and that is not the old lodge building. So, where is that old lodge building? But, you know, it kind of does look like there could have been a parking area over here. Here's a little roadway right past Old Lodge Road, right here. What was over here? It looks like this is where they might have the water system installed that was discussed earlier. Not sure, but maybe that's the building there for the water system. There is something over here in like this big clearing, so I don't know. You have to tell me, where is that old lodge building? Okay, so moving now to this here, the Blue Waters Lodge, yet another lodge located not directly within Lake Santeetlah, but close enough. It is said that this here lodge is your vacation solution, whether you are looking for a peaceful, relaxing escape or exciting outdoor adventures. Formerly the Pine Ridge Lakeside Bed and Breakfast, the Blue Waters Mountain Lodge opened its doors for all of you vacationers on July 18th of 2003. According to a demographics website, bigustuScities.com, Lake Santeetlah's population is now 43. However, the population is said to have peaked in 2000 at 67. Given the kind of houses built here, that should not come as a surprise. But you know what should? Yeah, me. 'Cause I have to move on to our next destination.